All right, welcome. It is Thursday, not our usual book club day, but it is book club day, and you guys know it goes down in the Grand Life Network on book club day. And this month we are reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, a classic that everyone loves to kind of bring up. I think it's important to read as well, because it was one of those books that really help you start changing that mindset, and that's what it's all about here, is reading these mind elevating books and being able to talk about these lessons that these people that are actually successful in writing books want to talk about. So this week we are going to be pulling from chapter 6, which is called, actually let me see, dang, I don't even remember the title. I went crazy with it. But chapter 6, what is it? Inventing Money or something, I believe. Let me double check, because I don't even want to be misspeaking here, because it was good. And there were so many times when I was looking at this like, oh yeah, this is exactly up our alley, saying things that we look at chapter 5. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, the rich invent money. Exactly. So chapter 5, the rich invent money. And again, like I was just saying, there were so many, I like calling them like trigger words. And of course, he pointed out, being the best selling author is different than being the best writing author. And sometimes you can do that by having those trigger words. But something that also my husband and I like to do whenever we're teaching is talk to that subconscious. Like, even if some people, aren't getting it, especially because I know he started talking about a lot of things that even Zay had asked before, one week when we were talking, when it's like, you have all this information, you're trying to tell the world, you're trying to tell your friends, and sometimes it starts going over people's heads, but it's like, you still keep talking because they hearing you, and that God voice in them is hearing you too. So, he was saying certain things that it's just like, okay, this makes sense when it's how you can invent money. So going into what he was talking about, one of the first things he says is, it's the bold that get ahead. And that's so crucial, because even, again, time and time when we come together on this book club, we really do these activities that are going to help us. And it's like, what are some of the things that hinder us and stop us from getting to where we are? And a lot of times that, common example of I just wasn't confident comes about. All of us have used that example in different responses on why we hadn't done something before. So understanding that that's the first thing, like, no, it's the bold that get ahead. You have to understand, okay, I have to be bold if I want to start getting ahead. And why does any of this stuff matter? Because we want to be building ourselves to have options, right? And this is something, again, that we talk about all the time. Even before we started growing, we're all talking about how we just started a garden and just so many things that we do. We're sitting here preparing ourselves to have options, even when it comes to how we plan on investing, where it's like, oh, we're going and buying these digital assets that are supposed to be these systems that are of the future. Why? Because we want to have options to be able to have options in the future, right? Where it's like, oh, people could tell you, oh, you might not have the ability to even buy these coins at one point because maybe they'll be too expensive one day, or just anything could happen. So it's like, oh, let me take advantage now so that I have options. And why that was really cool is because, again, something he was saying is there's two types of people in this world. One, those that would have gotten it if they had money, and two, those that have the money but don't take the opportunity because it doesn't fit into their financial plan. And it's crazy because he said he knows more people like the second person. And like I just said, Zay and I had this conversation before, because so do we, where the people that have, just enough money to get them started. They have the information. But when you're telling them this, it's not fitting into what they already thought with their, ideas. And so that's why it's something that I always do, even when it comes to how I try to introduce crypto, this world of crypto, I should say, to people. It's like, you can keep doing whatever you're doing, but let's do it in a better way. even when we had our last conversation during our workshop this weekend, when we were talking about how to revolutionize your life, and it's like there's the vision and there's your vision, right? So it's like you're going to look at things from your perspective, but you have to understand that it's your perspective, right? So there also has to be that other step that you look at, like, okay, I understand this is how I look at it, but aside from how I look at it, what is it like really? So that I can make sure that the way I'm looking at it is truly in line with what it's like, so that I'm not missing out. So when he was talking about how there's those two types of people, again, I'm like, see, I knew I'm not the only one that felt that way too. And I thought it was so cool, because I'm like, man, I know, like I just said, Zay and I have been having that same conversation where it's like, how can you speak other people's language so that they are getting it? Because you try to say it so many different ways because you want to help people. And sometimes you just can't, right? Because you can tell them, this is how you do it, but they have their own plan. They have their own ways, and people be stuck in their own ways. So again, something that he was saying is all you can do is, again, be that example. And that's something that we always talk about. Moving right along, he was saying, okay, so if this is, again, the situation, and we are looking and saying we want to be inventing money, the question becomes, how can we do that, right? And the answer is increasing your financial intelligence. That was the main theme that he continued to hammer on over and over. Increasing your financial intelligence, your financial IQ. And how would you do that? By coming up with different financial solutions, right? And so the question becomes, how many different financial solutions can you come up with? And it was interesting because he says most people just know 3: work hard, save, and borrow. And I'm like, wow, that's really true. Again, that we all have to pay bills. So we all have some type of financial question that we start with. And then it goes deeper. Okay, once you get past the bills, what else do you want to do? And in order to do that, what kind of financial solutions can you come up with in order to get those kind of things done? So it was really interesting. I posed that question to the group today. So we are going to circle back to that eventually and actually hear what the group came up with when it comes to what are the different financial solutions that you can come up with. And again, most people just know work hard, save, and borrow. But there's a better option, right? Which is actually creating money instead of working hard. And again, this is a conversation me and my husband just were having, because it's like he and I were talking before, and it's like we're different because I'm such a hard worker, and he's, on the contrary, a very, very smart worker. He works solely with his mind and always has, where on the contrary, I'm used to going and getting 2-3 jobs and being able to just work really hard and put my all into something. And there's that difference, right? Like, you don't have to have your mind in I have to overwork and work hard. If you increase that intelligence and are able to actually work smarter, so it comes down to, again, training your mind. That's again another theme that he continued to push when it comes to strengthening your financial intelligence, is training your mind. And that's something, again, that we all encourage people, because we understand how that changed a lot of things, where it's like, okay, we're learning cryptos, so we're over here training our mind to focus on learning crypto. It sounds like a completely different language at first, but the more you listen, the more you study, the more you start to understand things. And it's funny, I even have been trying to train my mind to have a photographic memory and just all kind of things, because again, once you understand you have the ability to train your mind to do anything, then you can train your mind to do that, and something for me, I really start to look at things like technical, in order to try to train my mind almost and like get to some point of rationale and like be like, okay, I understand this is why my mind is doing this, so that I can move accordingly, and again, that's something we always talk about, is getting to that root so that you can break bad habits in order to form new habits. And just like we would do that with working out with our body, we have to do that with working out with our mind too, and really take training our mind serious. That's what it comes down to, actually what you're inputting to your mind as well, and why those kind of things matter. So moving back into actually creating money though, he goes into say a few of the keys to actually creating money is, one, if you're waiting, you're going to be waiting for a while, right? And then I also liked a great example that he used is, he says, it's like waiting on all the lights to be green before starting your trip. And he gave an example as well, like 5 lights. Think about how long it takes for 5 lights to be green in a row. And if you're waiting for 5 lights to be green in a row before you start your trip because you want it to be the absolutely safest trip possible without any problems, you're going to be waiting for a while. And so, even thinking about that, it's like, it's not so bad if you get on the road and you run into a red light or two. That's okay. It might take you a little longer than if all the lights was green, but at least you're going to get there sooner than had you still been waiting for all the lights to be green. So when you start looking at things like, wow, that's something right there, especially like when we even go back to how some people don't listen and take heed because they're worried about how things are actually going to be. It's, again, they're waiting for all the lights to be green. They're waiting for their banks, or they're waiting for it. They'll give you all kind of reasons on why they're waiting in order to take that leap, and it's that same concept. So understanding that, it's like, okay, well, all the lights are not going to be green all the time, but you know how to drive, you practice how to drive, and you're going to become a better driver. You can learn how to take the back roads and avoid the red lights a different way. So again, when you start looking at it like that, it starts getting those creative juices going, at least I know for myself, where it's like, okay, again, like I just said, you could take back roads, you could take alternative routes, you can understand all the lights aren't going to be green, but this is an opportunity for me to still get going to where I'm going. So going back to creating money, he goes into another example on saying money is agreements, and it's like, I'm not reading the books. I know usually I'm reading right from the books, but I actually have this one on audio, so that's why I'm kind of just like summarizing what I was reading during this chapter 5. But I strongly encourage people to actually go in and read, because these are just some points that I picked out, but again, because these were the things that we consistently are talking about, and again, how it just reinforces that we know what we're talking about. And this is actually, again, somebody else that noticed these same things and are giving tips on how to get around that, and give these examples on, again, looking at it as green lights and putting it down, there's these kind of people, 2 types of people, and understanding these different kind of mindsets. So looking at even money, when it says, how we're creating money. Well, first of all, money is an agreement. And it's like, okay, well, let's get into that, because people always have the argument on what even is money, and money doesn't exist. So when you understand, okay, well, money is an agreement, and so when you start looking at that, it's like, we can exchange money and no money has been exchanged, just agreements. Like, think about it. We all just did a workshop together this weekend for the Raw DAO, where people pay money for their tickets. They did that on Eventbrite, all digitally. Nobody handed me cash. And now we're about to sit there and I'll split the profits with all the speakers, all the supporters, everybody, all the promoters, everybody. But yet I'm not handing anyone physical cash. This is all just tracked digitally on this digital ledger. So no money has really been exchanged, just agreements with the initial buyer agreeing that they wanted to pay $20 for the information that we were providing, because we put on a price that says this information is worth $20, so they agreed that it's worth $20. Then we all initially agreed any profits would be split amongst each other equally, between all the 8 contributors. So now it goes into the next part of the agreement where, okay, we have the fiat and now we have to exchange it again. And again, no cash is about to be exchanged. And it's funny because we're even taking it a step further, and I've exchanged some people for crypto. So again, no money is actually being exchanged. So when you start looking at money as that agreement rather than actual, this green paper bill that you're chasing, then it starts getting easier to attract, because that's also the law of attraction. The more you put money on this pedestal and think that it's this ultimate thing that you're chasing, it's going to keep running from you. So when you first, get that understanding and say, dang, this is just what I gotta put, it even starts making it easier to now start valuing yourself, because it's just part of the agreement. Oh, I'm doing this and you're going to do that, and it makes it black and white, almost like, again, how these smart contracts are about to be, where things can be self-executing. That's why we're even transitioning to this digital era, because that's how money can be. That's how this whole system can be, just based on agreements where one person says one thing, and if you do this, then this happens, and it's that simple. So very interesting to think of money again as agreements instead, and start changing that kind of mindset. So going back even into, okay, so now we understand what money is. We understand we want to work smarter instead of harder, right? Because we don't want to be like most people who think the only ways to actually create this money now is by working hard, by saving, or by borrowing, because we've already seen time and time again those aren't the best ways to go about it. He even says something that I think was really great during this chapter that says, just because you can do it, or just because you're doing it, doesn't mean it's the smart way to do it. And he mentioned that when it comes to saving. Think about that money in your savings account and how they send you point whatever of what you had in, like 0.01% or whatever that you have sitting in that savings account, and thinking, oh, you're saving it, or you got your 401k and they taking out a chunk, and by the time you retire, hopefully you've got enough to actually survive for long enough, so that's all you're banking on right there, so again, just because you're doing it doesn't mean it's the smart way to do it. And that's something that we all realize, especially when you start seeing how things can all of a sudden start changing. Nobody was expecting the whole world to shift, 2-3 years ago when this pandemic first started. So it's like, okay, understanding that these kind of things can change, and why these are not the smartest ways to just sit there and bank on it the traditional way. It's like we have to start getting creative and understanding, oh, I gotta start making my own moves and taking control of my future in order to ensure that this starts working out the way I really want it to work out. Because even if before you question like, maybe this is enough, now again, just like this book that we're reading and saying all these trigger words, the news that we're watching, the things that we're seeing when we're out in public is showing all of us these triggers too. Like, man, a lot of us talked about when we started seeing the transitions in the store and the cameras and all the stuff on the doors and just everything like that. Like, oh, we're seeing a lot of this stuff that's transitioning, and that's just confirming a lot of the other things that we already have been studying that's happening. So again, understanding that there's a smarter way to, again, continue to work so that we're not overworking hard, we're not banking on saving, or even that traditional market of borrowing. So it's like, okay, well, what can we do? Instead of working with your mind or work with your bodies, you work with your minds. You have to invest in your financial intelligence, and you'll be around those making moves forward instead of those that end up left behind. And again, that's something else all of us have realized, and why we have now started to take another step in order to move forward. Like we were just talking about before we started recording, we all now all of a sudden are starting a garden, and not all of us, because I know Zay has already been gardening before or had animals. I know she said this is actually her first time doing this full out garden, but think about how much better it is. Now we're about to have a gardening club, just like we have this book club, and have people from all over the world who's has such different experience that's about to be actually having tips to say, hey, this is how you can garden, and being able to share that information. So it's like that's how we're working with our minds now, by saying, hey, if we come together and share these things now, I don't have to actually go through a lot of those harder learning lessons. Like, of course you're going to have learning lessons on the way, but one of the best things you can do is actually learn from people, so that you don't have to go through a lot of those learning curves that make it a little more difficult. Like, even again, Zay today sent a long paragraph, like, you got to be looking out for these worms, and you got to be looking at this, when you got to understand your soil, and just showing a lot of things like, hey, you're getting started. This is the kind of stuff you want to be looking at. CJ was put her plants out, and we're talking about the frost, and it's like, again, you're learning stuff now, and you're going to be able to pass it on to the next. Like, here's some things, so that you don't have to go through these things on that learning curve that's going to make it harder. And why that matters is because we want people to be getting ahead, right? Not being left behind. So not only are they moving this way, but we want to help them catch up. And we always use this example on, imagine you're on a highway, right? You want to be, everybody's on a highway. There's some people further down, some exits further ahead. So instead of always thinking, the person up ahead has to slow down for you to catch up, you're trying to catch up to them. So you're trying to watch out for construction. But that person up ahead, all they can do is tell you, like, oh, look, when you pass this exit, you got to watch out because there's going to be construction. And so you got to do this, that, and the third, so that you can get up here quick without no problems. So that person that's, behind them has to take heed to that, so that, again, they can be avoiding those accidents and getting there quickly. So understanding these different kind of ways on how we can work with our minds and learn from others around us, and why that matters when it comes to those who are around us. Because just like we are so conscious and trying to pour into passing on resources for the next, that's what matters. That's what starts making the difference. That's why we come together in so many ways. Even the Grand Life Network, all the channels that we have here are just based on, these are all the different things us as women have to take care of. We have a food network because we all got to come up with dinner at the end of the night, going in the kitchen, looking in there, cooking, passing on recipes, passing on CJ's been, passing on the scriptures, passing on that word of God, which is important for us to focus on, which is something that my mom used to do. Because again, that's something that is important in your life in order to keep God first, and just motherhood, us being able to share our motherhood tips, health and wellness, me holding it down with the health and wellness, again, all these things, us talking about our goals, just so many different things that we have to be able to balance. But when you are able to, with that mindset and passing on these resources for the next, to say, man, look, this is how I balance it, this is how I got ahead, here's something that can help, it makes it all the better. And also having, again, a network of people that can do that for you. You guys know I'm into dogs, and I have puppies. My puppy wasn't feeling well, not eating, throwing up. I'm over here, first person I message is Zay. I'm like, man, I know Zay got animals, I know Zay got dogs. Let me message her, because I don't know what to do. I don't want to go running to some vet if I don't have to, because they're gonna already be on there trying to do 101 tests and trying to rack up, because I already know, especially out here in Vegas, like, all be a hustle. So I'm like, nah, I know there's a more natural way, and I'm a very natural person. I tend to try to do a more natural health regime in general. So when it came to the animals, I'm like, man, I wonder if there's a way I can do this for them as well. So, hitting her up and being able to try to self-diagnose. We even got a vet that helped us with the doggy ears that could come right to our house and do that. So again, that's the option that we started to take. Went ordered like a bunch of herbs off Amazon, like licorice root, and it's like 4 different little herbs though. And taking that route to say, okay, let's think about these issues. And this is when it even comes down to when it came to increasing our financial intelligence. How many different financial solutions can you come up with? Right? Like I just said, oh, my dog got sick. I had to start thinking of solutions. So I had to start thinking, oh, I'm not going the traditional route of going to the vet. So let me start using the resources around trying to gauge, number 1, what's the problem, and number 2, what's the solution, and how many solutions I can come up with. Because you're looking online and it's showing solutions like surgeries and solutions like all these extreme things where it's like, okay, well, let me see what other kind of solutions I can come up with before I get there. And one good thing as well that my husband had put into my mind before was, you also have to think about not only assessing for all the possibilities, but what's the likelihood that that possibility is going to happen. And just hearing that was something that shifted my mind as well, because I'm a person that can definitely go over all the possibilities, like, oh, this can happen, that can happen, this can happen, that can happen, and be confident, like, okay, I understand all the different things that can happen. And understanding, taking that mindset and trying to go as far in the future as possible so that I'm accounting for all the possibilities. But also taking it that extra step and thinking, what's the likelihood that that's even going to happen? Because now you start focusing that energy on what actually matters. And again, this goes into how we can increase that financial intelligence and pour into the things that matter. And that's why we even have, focused a lot of our energy together on this, digital revolution. Because when we start seeing, these are the things that's happening, these are the things that matter, these are the things that I'm going to be paying attention to, because this is most likely what's about to happen. So understanding that's all a part of that financial intelligence and how to train your mind. It again just continues to help you want to sharpen that, right? Want to continue to sharpen that and understand, okay, I'm trying to increase my options here. That's my main objective. I'm trying to create my options, trying to be in control of having all the options I have. Here's the way I can do that by increasing my financial intelligence. So moving into that, he says that there's 4 ways to increase your financial intelligence. First is accounting, which is the ability to read numbers. Second is investing, which is the science of money making money. Third is understanding markets, which is the science of supply and demand. And last is the law, which is the awareness of accounting and regulations. So when it comes to our financial intelligence, think again about how important each one of these things is when it comes to how we focus on increasing that. When it comes to accounting and the ability to read numbers. I've kind of mentioned to you guys, we're all very spiritual, but if you ask me my religion, I'm Muslim. And when I really get into it, I believe more in the 5% Nation of Islam when it comes to studying supreme mathematics. It's the supreme alphabet, understanding that because it's a science. You can look at a number and understand what it represents, and then take it a step further and understand that this is why we have numbers and why these numbers are used this way, and that in every single day it has a number associated. So understanding that this is the same understanding that our powers that be and leaders have. So when they're saying certain things are happening on certain days, it's not really a coincidence, and it's really deeper than that. So just understanding numbers to that extreme and why it's, again, certain days certain things happen, it starts taking it a step further for me, so even when it comes to understanding numbers and the ability to read numbers in that way, because again, like I just said, the numbers represent something, like 1 represents understanding, 2 represents wisdom, 1 represents knowledge, 2 represents wisdom, 3 represents understanding, and again, thinking about 1, 2, 3, that's all the things that it take in that order. And just again, how you can see, okay, when I see the number 1 and that represents knowledge, and how that influence again the day, and just things like that. It's almost like playing like Sudoku or something like that, when you're like decoding things, and being able to take it that step further to decode things. And that's just for me and my perspective, right? Because like I just said, when we're looking at things, we understand there's the perspective and my perspective. So that's why I had to say, understanding that that's the science of numbers as well, when it comes to that supreme mathematics that I understand when I read these numbers. And it's like, okay, there's other ways we can read numbers as well when it comes to cryptocurrency, right? And I always use crypto as an example because that's something that we all use. And anybody listening to this, I want you to start going and dabbling and looking at that as well. But understanding how to read those numbers, right? Something we always talk about when it comes to cryptocurrency is it's called crypto because it's encrypted. It's supposed to represent this unknown number, that's supposed to be represented for the robots to really read, not really for humans, because humans don't read numbers like this. We don't. That's why it's even written like this. So when we sit there and look at crypto and understand, okay, let me go understand how to actually read these numbers, how to see, oh, this means that this is about to happen, and understand that that's why we even start getting ahead and getting better at making money in the crypto game, when you understand how to read the numbers in that sense and understand how the volume is influencing certain things, and just understanding how to read the numbers in that sense, you again start to understand why again, reading the numbers in accounting matters. Something else that he also mentioned in here, I could have sworn I took note when it came to that, but one of the really good investment strategies when it comes to even reading the numbers is increasing your asset column, right? And he gave that as a good investment strategy. So again, understanding how to read the numbers, you have to also look at your investment strategy, right? And be looking at the things that you're gaining as assets, right? Because we're not just putting things that aren't going to come back and yield anything, and that's a part of actually helping us create money as well, is by putting our money into something that's going to come back and yield. And he gave the example, you guys know he's into real estate as well, so where it comes down to, okay, he's made X amount of money, he's going to go take that money he made to put into another investment to make some more money, right? And so when it comes to, again, we are into crypto. So think about it. If you have $100 that you made from, we're also all creative. So say CJ sold a crochet blanket, for $100. Now she's created that blanket that she was able to sell for profit. Now she can take that money that she's made for profit and put it into cryptocurrency, where now that $100 can make $1,000, and then she can take that $1,000 from cryptocurrency and put it into a property, or and again, keep letting that money make money, and understanding accounting and how to move your money into more assets that are going to yield a return, and being able to balance that asset column when you're able to read numbers and see the opportunities that are being made. And let me see. Okay, yeah, I was going to say, because that's another big point too that I want to touch on, is being able to see the great opportunities. Like, that's what also makes a difference when it comes to our mindset, which is, he says, great opportunities are not seen with your eyes, but seen with your mind. And that's why, again, our whole conversation today has been shifting your mind so that you're even able to see these opportunities. And he goes into saying how when even you're trying to create a new business, you want to take a step back and do something that nobody else is doing. And you already know we push that whole concept when it comes to crypto. Why? Because you don't want to be over in that school of fish doing what everybody else is doing, because you already know that whale is coming and plotting to come eat that whole school of fish. You already know it just puts you in more trouble trying to go and do what everyone else is doing. So when you first understand, I'm trying to train my mind to see the great opportunities that other people can't see with their eyes, now again, that starts putting you in that different wave of being able to start making choices that are going to start propelling you past the usual as well. So it all comes down to being able to train your mind to see those opportunities and again prepare for those opportunities. Because how we even started this conversation is it sucks to be in a position on a great opportunity comes about and you're not in the position to take advantage of that opportunity, right? So you always want to be having yourself in that position where you can take advantage of a great opportunity. Every single day we have opportunities. So every single day you want to be putting yourself in a position to seize the best opportunities that are going to come past you. And it comes down to training your mind to see those opportunities, because your eyes are going to miss it. So being able to see it with your mind now again starts to increase that in the chances and the opportunities that now you're able to take. And that's something that again we all have seen, because we've started creating those opportunities. We've all been able to take a step back and look and say, man, I got this gift, I've got these tools, here's the opportunities I can come about without it. NFTs, think about how awesome NFTs are and how you can literally make anything an NFT. So anybody can sit there and take a step back and see an opportunity or see anything as an opportunity, right? So again, that's how powerful just that shift in mind is when it comes to being able to create opportunities when you start seeing them with your mind. So then we go into, like I said, number 2, which is investing, and that's the science of making money. And I don't gotta harp on that because I just went in on that. Investing is the science of making money. We just said, when we want to understand this like scientifically, literally, not more of the hoopla. There's a method to this madness, right? That's why I even said when it comes to reading the numbers, nothing is by coincidence. There's a science between what each number represents and why things happen with certain numbers. So when you take it that step further, there's a science to everything, right? There's a science to making money, and that's with investing. So that's why when you come up with that investing strategy, that's why you start making money better. And that's why we understand, we're in a cryptocurrency because we understand this is the time to make that happen. And you come up with your investment strategy and you start making money. I even just went over that example on how you should be funneling that money into cryptocurrency, because we understand that science on being able to put $100 in and make it do something, right? We're able to sit there and see, this and what science is awesome, because you can put up your theory, right? You can sit there and say, say for example, ZIL, right? Or VeChain, actually, that's a good one that we all like talking about. VeChain has a great utility, right? We seen it at a penny, right? So we're like, man, we can theorize that this should be able to go to X, Y, and Z at the most. So at the least, when it went to 10 cents, it was not surprising, because we already was able to put in an equation and think, man, if this has this utility and these many people need to use it, then this needs to be valued at this amount of money, right? So being able to understand the science on why things are going to be valued that way, and being able to understand that we're able to take advantage of getting in a lot of these coins at a better price. And that's the beauty of investing, or being able to sit there and say, you know what, I understand that the stock market is looking this way, and why I don't want to be investing in the stock market and want to be investing in cryptocurrency instead, understanding how this wealth transfer is working and how the money is flowing from one place into another, right? So again, just understanding the science of money and how the money is moving and being able to watch the banks and sit there and create our theories and experiment with them. It's literally a science at that point that you're able to experiment with and start actually, again, making money, right? That's the whole point of this, us being able to use our minds to sit there and say, how can we start making money? So then it goes into that third step then, which is actually understanding the market, which is understanding that supply and demand, right? Understanding, again, what is actually happening, right? And understanding this is what's about to happening and what we need to be doing for that. And I did that very general for supply and demand because you can do that in different ways, right? Like, for example, we all are really focused when it comes to that education, right? Because there's a supply and demand for that education as well. We understand that there's this shift happening and there's a lot of people that need to be learning about what is happening, right? Because when we sit here and look at the influencers that are trying to teach people and just kind of get people further away from what's actually happening, right? There's a low supply of people out here actually teaching people things that are going to help them get closer to being self-sufficient and closer to making money on their own. But there's a high demand because there's a lot of people out here that we don't want to get lost because of the things that's happening. We can watch the news and see they're saying, oh, there's a food shortage, right? That's not something that we're making up. That our president came on the news and said, oh, there's going to be a food shortage, X, Y, and Z. So although we have been preaching that for a while, telling people to prepare and that these kind of things are going to happen, now it's been confirmed. So now that demand is even increasing, right? And that's why, again, understanding the market and how that's going to increase. Now think about how in position we are, because we've already understood, oh, this kind of stuff is happening. So now all the gardeners are in position to come out here and educate. Now you have the supply. Now you have the information for that demand. And now you're in position for that overflow. That's why when it comes to understanding the markets and putting yourself in position, if you're ahead of that curve, that's how you catch the wave every single time, by being ahead of that curve. So when that demand comes, you're right there, on it. And seeing, again, even CJ, how she posted being in that crochet club, all on Zoom and digital, understanding, oh, we're going into this digital era. There's a demand for that, right? And there's a demand for people who want to go physical to digital. That's why we all even came together trying to help people that want to go physical to digital, because we understand there's a demand for that and it's going to keep increasing. So we have to create the supply, go down these paths and understand, oh, this is how you can do that, and here's the tools for you to do that with this education, because there's nobody else on here showing you how you can take your crochet and come digital. So you got the supply, and if you're the only one with it, again, that overflow, that demand is going to come right your way, and it's going to keep going more and more and more. And it's so awesome to be able to see that, because even Zay, when everybody started talking about the animals, I was ecstatic. I'm like, okay, usually Zay, has the goats, but then other people start showing like, oh, they have llamas as well, and making things out of fiber, and they want to get into it as well. So again, understanding the demand is there and how you can put yourself in position with the supply. You're going to be in position every single time, so understanding the markets, that these are the ways that you're going to be increasing that financial intelligence, right? This is just kind of a summary on all the things that I've been talking about, again, to shift that mind in order to be increasing your financial intelligence in everything you're doing, by understanding how to read the numbers so that you can account for things, understanding the science of money and how to make money as you're investing, understanding the markets and how, oh, the supply and demand is going to work, so that you can be in position every single time. And the last thing is the law. so that you can understand and have that awareness of accounting and regulations, which is something that, again, we always emphasize as well, that you should be accounting for while you're doing things, not afterwards, right? If you know, oh, I'm sitting here investing in crypto, so I'm going to have to pay taxes. It means account for that, not use it as an excuse to say, oh, well, I don't get it, so that's why I don't want to do it. Think about how many people, have probably given you that excuse, because I know I've heard it a million times, So imagine, understanding the law, not being afraid of the law, but understanding the law and accounting for it so that you can be moving accordingly as well. That's why rich people are rich, because they know how to not only make money, but protect their money, right? And that's why, again, we emphasize you guys on not getting lost on trying to make money to sit there and appease social media or appease people that don't matter. Set your own goals. I've told you guys many times on my extreme goals that I have, but it sounds extreme to some, but when you really listen to, my big vision and how we're trying to accumulate assets and accumulate the options that we're having, it starts to not sound so extreme, because you can see, oh wow, this is the way that the world is moving, and these are the options I'm trying to literally create in order for my options in the future, right? So understanding everybody has to do that for themselves and move accordingly, right? So understanding that, it's like not being afraid of the regulations, but just understanding that, and again, moving accordingly, and protecting your money, right? Protecting what you're building, protecting that so that it doesn't start to do the opposite. You can either be building or you can be destroying. So you don't want to be destroying what you're building. So that's why it's really important to focus on those 4 things. The last thing I wanted to just kind of note that he mentioned here is he had this awesome quote that I really loved, and it says, "They are one skill away from great wealth." And I thought that was such a great quote when he says most people just need to master one more skill. They're one skill away from great wealth. And I think that's really a key, because again, that's what we're doing already, right? Understanding like, we are upskilling ourselves. We are trying to master in on these skills that are going to take us to that next level. And being able to see what that skill is and focus in on upskilling that. He even gave the example, if you are working and want to be, working, because we read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So if you guys have read this book, it's a guy who has 2 different he doesn't have 2 different dads, but he has a dad that went the more traditional route on going to school a lot. Actually, he went all the way up, got his doctorate, but now he's in a bunch of debt. He doesn't have a lot of money because he's just working, and he doesn't understand how to create money, right? He just understands how to work for money, how to save money, how to borrow money, right? The very traditional ways to do it. Where he has a friend who has a dad who is quite the contrary, who knows how to actually create money, has businesses, and has creates opportunities not only for himself but for others to have jobs, which I think is very interesting as well. Once you understand, being an entrepreneur, you're not only creating opportunities for yourself but for others, and how your financial intelligence makes decisions that affect other people's lives, not only your children's but others as well. So very interesting book when it comes to those 2 perspectives, and how the rich dad is what he called the entrepreneur dad that actually was able to create money. How he was saying when he was working, and going to college and doing these different things, the jobs he was going for was because he wanted to get specific skills, right? Even he would sit there and work, get up to the top performing salesperson or whatever the case may be, and then leave the job to go do another job because, he's gained those skills, he understands how this works, and then is able to move to the next, right? So understood, I'm not trying to be a worker bee forever. But right now, while I have to be, I'm going to be learning skills that are actually going to help me for what I'm trying to do in the future, instead of letting this time just be wasted on things that don't matter. So it's able to even seize the opportunities like that, which I thought was a very interesting perspective. So again, understanding we are also just that one skill away. Right before this, I was actually over here working on my little avatar, and so excited to do that. And it's just real cool, like I said, it's something really awesome to be able to do. I know we did our Web3 workshop again this weekend, when it's like, oh, these are all the different skills that you're going to need for this space: engineering, avatar creation, understanding the metaverse, And like I said, I've been working on this avatar. So funny. I think that's probably even why I fell asleep, because it's something that I'm in a habit now, and just sitting here laying on my bed, working until, you start falling asleep, because when you're chasing those dreams, you start sleeping less, right? I got my laptop in my bed with me, just working. And you start working on those skills, and it's like, if I'm sitting here, I want to be getting something done, because after I have this avatar built, now I want to go build scenes for Blender. Once I get that built, now I gotta go write smart contracts for our governance token. Once that's done, then I gotta go make tie-dye t-shirts so that I can make patterns, and then gotta go make 3D digital clothes for that. Thinking about all the skills that we're learning, it's like anytime I'm just sitting here, I want to be working on these skills, because I understand, oh, if I learn how to make these avatars, I can sit here and be making avatars for other people. If I learn how to make these specific little rooms that we can bring into the metaverse, and all this on the third, all the visions I got even with that, then I could be making these rooms for other people. I can turn this into a business model, seeing all the skills that you can gain, and all the opportunities that can come from those skills that you then gain. It's like, anytime I'm sitting here, I want to be putting in effort to actually polishing those skills, because of the opportunities that they can bring once they're polished. So with that being said, I do want to circle back to our question of the day, and actually hear from our ladies that are here, Miss Zay and CJ, and hear actually how you guys are creating different financial solutions, and our question was how many different financial solutions you can come up with. And I did ask that in our chat. I seen CJ said 2. I had put a little funny thing like, oh, drop a number in the reactions with how many you can do. And I think I had counted 9. So I'm just going to go over mine briefly. Actually, I'll let somebody else go before I just wrap up mine, because mine were just very broad. Not broad, but like, y'all already know all the different things that I have mentioned, kind of, that you can do and that I do. So I would love to hear from someone else first. I know CJ, like she said, had 2. So I don't know if Zay, I'm trying to go to the book club, had time to kind of reflect on that one as well. Oh yeah, Zay, okay, she did drop a number as well, 7. So yeah, and either of you that want to get started, feel free. I see Zay dropped the number 7, CJ dropped the number 2. So ladies, what are these creative, different financial solutions that you all can come up with when you look at your life and look at the things that you're trying to create?
Okay, so I'll go first. I actually wrote a list down. I'm not sure if this is the type of list we're talking about, but I'm just gonna go for it. So I have 7 ways to help myself financially, and I could either get a regular 9 to 5, I could sell NFTs, I could use my Cricut Maker to make just about anything, honestly, in a Cricut Maker. Breeding, which is dogs, in the future goats, and my chickens, selling chicken eggs, selling goat milk, soap, cheese, and yogurt, selling extra fruits or vegetables I grow in my garden, and also the seeds from the fruits and vegetables, selling my compost and selling earthworms, and that's all I came up with. But basically, anything that does with like farm or agriculture, I can use for my benefit financially. So that's all I have.
Yay! And that's a great list, and I love how you brought up your farm in that, because yes, not only can you have the eggs for you and your family to eat, and have the fruits and vegetables for your family to eat, but also it can be that business, right? And it can actually offer a lot of financial solutions that people need, even taking it a step further and being able to teach others, right? That's always a way as well, as being able to teach. In crypto, I don't think I heard you say crypto, and being able to use crypto as that vessel, and being able to teach as that vessel, and putting a value on those kind of things. But exactly, love those ways that you mentioned you could create money using your farm. So thank you for sharing. Miss CJ, what were the ways that you had kind of thought of?
Well, I can say I think I put the two to be creative, because I had the peace sign of two up there. But
I liked it. I was like, okay.
Well, that way I knew I could come up. I knew that I could use two. But I think that you made some really good points about building that skill that you hone in on, and that you use that and keep using your mind to create. Because I think that what I've done is spread myself thin in a lot of ways, including the 9 to 5 and this and that. So I have two solutions. One that I don't talk about much is crypto, but I do. I have good positions in that space, and that has been growing. It has grown since I've started investing. And that is something I'll always have there, and I continue to build in that space. So that's one. But I have written down, I'm a notary, and there's so many things about it online. If I just really focus in on putting that to work, that's one. Another way, crocheting. There's a huge community that I just seeing now how digital we are. That there's ways that they were even talking about how we can grow and make money and do things like that. They're looking at ways to even be digital, because they're realizing there's so much energy going into that, and different projects that come from meeting people in that crochet community, which I love. I absolutely love the community. There's some music stuff that I had been in. So there's my 4 and 5. Let me go with 4 and 5. Part of the way I was paying for college when I was in there was like DJing and violin lessons. So I was into music quite heavily in school. And there's ways to do it digitally with NFTs and even lessons. So as long as I'm focused on something and putting energy into that, there's plenty of ways to create money. But those about 5. So that didn't match up with my avatar very well, but I'm going there.
Wow, yes, I love that. It's so funny that you mentioned DJing. My husband always mentions he wants to be a metaverse DJ. He's like, that would be like the coolest thing, is just being like a metaverse DJ. And like you said, offering a lot of that stuff online. My son, he does piano lessons virtually, because they're creating different things like that now. He goes to out school where he does a lot of classes virtually, pre-K, piano. You could read aloud. You can almost find any kind of class on there at any level, and be able to learn virtually and with other kids and with different kind of teachers. So like you said, being able to see all the ways that you can start actually using those things that you already have, and like you said, putting that energy into figuring out how you can get back into it is really powerful. Like you said, even the notary, like you said, you got these skills, you just gotta focus that energy into actually making them yield something, And I think that's why I even had brought up the topic today on just, it just starts with that mind, right? And starting to say, what, I choose to work more with my mind instead of working harder. Because like you said, CJ, you start putting that energy into your 9 to 5 and other things where it's like, if we decide to say, hey, I'm tired of working hard with my body, I'm ready to start working hard with my mind, and are able to put that energy into the things that I can create with my mind, then things will start to shift, right? And there will become a point where you'll say, wow, I'm actually making more from these piano lessons or violin lessons, from crocheting digitally, and that will actually start yielding more. Then you going to a 9 to 5, that you're going to be able to have even more time and energy to pour into that and not have to do a 9 to 5 eventually, right? So it just comes down to, again, strategizing how to put that energy into that stuff so that it can yield that, right? And actually be able to plant those kind of seeds so that you start bearing fruit from that, right? Because it comes down to the seeds that we plant. It's going to determine what we start to yield, right? So wanting to plant those seeds and water those seeds so that they can start yielding that fruit that we can eat on is what matters. So I think that was a really good point on how you say, just understanding these are the gifts and being able to actually put that energy into them. So love those skills that you shared. Mine is kind of the same: crypto, NFTs, tie-dye t-shirts, a Udemy course, dog breeding, selling my merch, YouTube, could get that monetized, blog, I just started that, I could try to get that monetized, or like freelance. I know a lot of people kind of get paid for blogging, and it's funny, the article that I wrote yesterday for the mom thing that I'm kind of starting, it was actually called the Mommy Starter Pack, and it was a off the like random thing that I decided to kind of do, but it's because, again, I realized I had been kind of wasting time. And I had kind of mentioned to Zay, where it's like, I had this realization where I wasn't exactly happy with the fruit that the seeds I have been planting have been yielding, right? You guys know I'm big into teaching my son, and that's my focus. And, when I first started the Grand Life Network, it initially was kind of along that line on, I was actually coming online to link up with mothers and talk about these lessons, but I continue to kind of shift things and get further and further from my actual purpose. So here I am again, creating a new Instagram, finally on YouTube with him in our lessons. And this group that I'm blogging for, I actually reached out to them last January, and applied to be a blogger there as a freelance blogger. And here I am, March of 2022, a year later, and just submitting my first blog because I had gotten so far from what I had set out to do. So when I had actually wrote that blog, it was just kind of, as reminding people, sometimes that happens, but we have to sit there and assess. You guys know I kind of dropped my A+ strategy that I've been telling the world about, which is assessing that we're further from that past, adjusting, figuring out, how we can get back on track, and then applying it and getting back on track, right? It's okay to realize, like, man, I've been out here wasting a little time. I'm not focused on what I can be focused on. But as soon as you have that acknowledgement, that's powerful, and now you have the power to adjust. Now you can take these other points that we read from Robert Kiyosaki and can start to shift that mind and see the opportunities that we can use in order to help us now create money that will create opportunities, right? Because like we kind of have talked about, money is, something that can just be an agreement, which is, agreeing that's going to create more opportunities, right? Because we just talked, a lot of the stuff is digital, so it's not like a lot of these people are going to be putting cash actually in your hand. It's just, again, about the opportunities that you'll be prepared for when those doors open, when you have yourself in the right position by being able to, take these different pointers and say, man, I want to be in a position to seize every opportunity that comes my way every single day, and be in that position for the demand that's coming, be in position for this wave that's coming, and keep pioneering that, understanding I'm leading this way, and that other people are going to be, following after and our kids are those people that's going to be following after us, so more than anything, getting these skills so that we're their examples on this is how you can use what you got to create those options and opportunities as well. So very good conversation today. I feel like I've been rambling on and on and on, so I would love to hear if any of you ladies had anything from the book that you also kind of read about Rich Dad Poor Dad, any like lesson that kind of struck out to you, or anything that you've heard today, anything that we've talked about that you wanted to mention before we wrap it up for the day.
You get a lot of good points. I think you get a lot of great points from the book and from the life of speaking about it all. How we can apply it. Right. And use it. So thank you.
Definitely. And that's what the whole point is, as we're reading these books or listening to them, however we're ingesting them, I'm always looking for that point on how can we take this information and really walk away by applying it with our lives, right? Because like I said, it's not that he said anything that was too new information to us, and that's only because we are lucky. I remember when I first read this book a few years ago, I was reading it from a completely different mindset. I was reading it while I was working overtime and super working, man. If I would talked about that working time period, you guys wouldn't even believe how much I was working. But you could dang near say 24/7 type of working vibes, because that's what I have been used to. I've seen people go get 2-3 jobs, be able to take advantage of overworking, because I always knew, I like having more than enough money because I like having the options and opportunities and being in position to take opportunities. So if I have an opportunity to make more so that then I have options to do more, I would seize that opportunity. But it's like hearing, listening to this book at that time, even back then, again, started to help shift that mindset. And when the first time that I listened to it, one of the things that stuck out was, don't go and when new opportunities come, don't go and take money from your savings to go and invest in that opportunity. It means you just have to work more so that you can now go do that opportunity, right? So that was one of the things that stuck out to me when I first read it. And it's like, like I said, that was years ago. So think about people that aren't familiar with these kind of things before, and how, again, these are the kind of things that when you start shifting that mindset, it starts to help you start to see things different, see the opportunity in everything, and then you start growing past that. And like CJ said, we're at a point of being able to actually apply this. We are sitting here creating a whole decentralized autonomous organization because we see the opportunity that DAOs are about to present, and we're changing things physical to digital and all of our stuff because we see the opportunities being created. We're gardening because we see the options that we want to have on what I want to be able to eat and where I get it from. It's like we all are being very, very mindful on putting in the effort to come together, limit the learning curve. We are going to learn together, but think about how much better it is having each other to be able to learn together. Having people to be able to ask on how to do this or how to do that, and continue to grow that ecosystem, right? So this has definitely been a great chat. Again, very reassuring that we are all on the right path. Some great reminders and notes, to remember on. We are upscaling ourselves. And again, these are even lessons on ways that, again, when we're being that example to our friends and family or co-workers or just people on the outside that are just watching on Instagram or Twitter or just anywhere, these are the kind of things that are going to equip us, understanding, you got financial intelligence and your financial IQ, and here's some of the things that you can do to shift that mindset too. Here's some of the things you want to be mindful as well, and just give you good points of reference, right? We get to add Rich Dad Poor Dad to that tool belt as, again, a reference tool to say, I read that book before. Here's some quotes I could pull from this. Here's some stuff that you can, pass on to the next to, again, stir that mind shift, because that's the whole key there. So definitely was a great book to dive into. I will be dropping a new book for us for next month. For me, it is going to be Ramadan, so I am going to be reading the Quran as well during next month for Ramadan, but definitely want to do another book as well. So gonna be putting that out in the book club chat, so make sure you guys stay tuned. To all of our listeners, we have so much more in store, diving into so many more books that are going to continue to add to our tool belt, continue to strengthen us, continue to help us just get sharper, right? Again, it comes down to what you put into your mind, what you put into training your mind, right? I like listening to these audiobooks because, again, it strengthens our mind. I will go and re-listen to some books, just because I want these kind of things in my subconscious, right? Because I'm a daydreamer. So having things like this that I'm kind of daydreaming about and kind of in my mind, it all goes just into that training of the mind. Listening to these book club podcasts, right? Listening to different kind of things that you usually wouldn't, that's going to sit there and pass on skills to you as well, because that's what we do, right? We come, and I'm always trying to make sure you picking up some type of gem, right? Some type of, even if it's a reassurance, even if it's just another like tidbit to just, again, sharpen what you already have. Want to be passing on something that's going to help upskill our listeners, upskill the people we're talking with. So definitely has been a great conversation. I'm excited for what's in store, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.